In what way does an American enjoy a way of life that other countries do not have? Our people have certain characteristics that built this country to its modern, pleasant way of living, with its unusual opportunities for good jobs, education, and individual freedom. How do Americans live? They live in many types of communities. As an American, perhaps you live on a New England farm, where through the years your ancestors have added many rooms to the original house. Or you live in a town like Salem, Massachusetts, that is rich in American folklore. Perhaps you live in a large city like New York or in Philadelphia in a house of native stone. Or in Charleston, South Carolina, with its historical harbor and typical colonial homes. Southerners are famous for their charm and gracious living. Wherever you live in America, the ideals of your parents will be much the same. You may live near Miami, Florida. Or you may live in our great Midwest. Or in the West, in Colorado Springs, or Denver, or in a desert home near Tucson, Arizona, built to withstand the desert heat, or in the far West in California. This shady street in Laramie, Wyoming, is typical of the way many of us live. The fact that we have so many types of land and climate tends to make us a tolerant people with many different interests and ideas. We grow the products of both hot and cold climates and are rich in natural resources like lumber, oil, and rare minerals. Thus, we are less dependent on other countries than most peoples of the world. Our country is divided into states with capitals like Helena, Montana. Here, much of the government is carried on according to the needs of that part of the country. Sacramento, California. Frankfort, Kentucky. Austin, Texas. Providence, Rhode Island. We are governed both by our national government and by our state government, and this tends to keep us from having too strong a centralized government. Boston has many historical places dear to all Americans. While our people have great independence, we are closely united in a common, colorful history. The famous Boston Commons. Tourists from all over America visit Paul Revere's home. Every child knows the story of how the lantern was hung in the steeple of this North Church to give Paul Revere the signal to warn the colonists that the British were coming to attack. When children see this statue of Paul Revere, they like to imagine how he rode bravely through the night. A teacher has taken her class to visit the beloved church and climb up into the famous steeple. But something that is very unusual in other countries is happening in the church courtyard. Men are discussing politics and saying what they think, an everyday scene in America. In many countries of the world, this scene could not occur. The right to speak freely is not enjoyed by all peoples of the world. Our great national parks, like Glacier Park, belong to all of us. Travelers from every state are inspired by the beauty of the mountain peaks. In America, there is a car for about every 4 people, so that many families take trips to different parts of the country. They learn to know their country and what the people in other states think and do. In Europe and the Orient, cars are great luxuries, and motor trips are not possible for the average family. An American takes for granted the freedom to come and go and to do as he pleases, a freedom that is most unusual in a world of today. Let's look in on a typical American family on a northwestern fruit farm and see how little Americans start out in life. It is Sunday, and the Kings plan to stay home and relax with their children. Terry, 7, Johnny, 4, and Paul, the baby. They make themselves comfortable around the sandpile, and everything seems happy and serene. But only for a moment. The Kings try at first to let their children work out their own problem. Terry and Johnny both want the same toy, a real fight. Mother scolds. When will these children learn to be kind and generous with each other, to give and take? Father comforts Johnny and tries to make Terry understand that the toy belongs to Johnny. Terry feels ashamed. He will have many growing up pains before he is an adult. From the time American children are very small, they are taught that each person should have consideration. American children are encouraged to think for themselves, to make good decisions. Even small American boys love mechanical toys. They like to find out what makes them run. Parents encourage this interest, and it's no wonder that we are a nation highly trained in mechanical skills. Paul tries again and again to make his truck run on the board. He is a small boy to be trying so hard, a typical American boy. The boy's cousins live on the adjoining farm, a typical American scene. The family are having a picnic in the backyard. Everyone helps. Brother and Ann quarrel over the potato chips. Dad says, "Stop fighting, children." Sometimes it seems as if Dad never has a chance to rest. Sit up straight. Now, don't talk all at the same time. Even small children feel free to speak their own opinions in an American home. And so it goes. The Carrs have finished dinner and are trying out the new badminton court. Dad shows them how to hold the racket and serve the bird. It takes a lot of patience to bring up an American family, as each person has his or her own idea about how things should be done. Now try again, children. You'll do better next time. Mr. Carr is a typical American father and encourages his children in all their activities. Jimmy and Molly and Ann are having a lot of fun learning how the game should be played. That looks fine. Molly hits it very well. Father and Emily applaud. Now Jimmy serves. Molly hits a good one, and Jimmy misses, much to little sister's delight. Then Father and Molly show the children how the game should be played. Another typical family situation. Ann and Molly both plan to ride. Ann has the horse. Then out comes Molly. This time it's Molly's turn, as she has a date to ride with a friend. Well, as usual, Father comes to the rescue. Life is made up of many small decisions. But as we make each one, we are building the type of person we will be when we grow up. As the children grow up, many teachers take a hand in their bringing up. Patiently they explain the lessons, teach them to think and act, and meet their daily problems. to think things through by themselves. And now class is dismissed. Sometimes teachers have to scold, and the world seems discouraging. But it's all part of learning to think for yourself, to live the American way. Many problems will be met and conquered on the playground. But now to return to the cars. Mr. Carr is inspecting the orchard. Mother and Emily go along. Father shows Emily which cherries are ripe and just how to pick them without injuring the stems. She wants to pick some herself. American parents try constantly to teach their children to do things for themselves, to be interested in what other people are doing, to take part in everything that goes on around them. Father walks over to the pickers. Something is wrong. They are including inferior fruit in their boxes. Mr. Carr's fruit will be judged by a few sample boxes. This will decide the price for the carload. He explains to the men the loss he will take if second-grade fruit is included. And now a touch of America. The men argue with their boss. They don't agree. And in America, every man has the right to speak out. Mr. Carr is patient. He likes his men to feel free to make suggestions, and he wants to know if they have a better idea. Finally, the trouble is straightened out, and the men laugh as they return to their work. Mr. Carr is fair, and the men like to work for him. Emily listens. She has complete confidence in her dad. She is used to hearing her father try to make good decisions and give every man a square deal. The same feeling of independence is found in any American industry. For example, building a house. The head foreman discusses the work with Bill, the work foreman. Bill has been with the firm many years. He started at the bottom and worked up to his present position. Bill studies his plans to know how much lumber he must order. His men work hard, but there is a carefree atmosphere not found in countries controlled by a dictatorship. The head foreman knows that with Bill in charge, the work will be well done and finished on time. Notice the teamwork as the men lift the framework into position. One of the reasons that America has built such great industries is that each man can be depended on to do his bit intelligently and accurately. Men of many nationalities work in the building trades. Bill is always in the center of things. He helps the man lift the boards and uses a power saw to even the roof. In the United States, individual ability is recognized, and each man has a chance to make good. This recognition of individual worth is important in the American way of life. The work continues. A carpenter puts in the window frames. Next to him is a plasterer. They all have a cooperative way of working. Bill and his men are a good illustration of how work is done in America. The difference in the attitude of men in a free country and one controlled by a dictatorship. The same would be true of a group of harbor workers. As they wend their way home at night, they will say what they think with no fear of interference. It is hard to realize here that in some countries the people are afraid of their governments. The same freedom of speech would be true in this Pennsylvania steel plant, in this Texas oil industry, or in this South Carolina match factory. At this Long Beach Ford plant, notice the cars of the workmen. Workmen in foreign countries do not go to their jobs in cars, nor do they have such luxuries as electric stoves, washing machines, irons, radios, and television sets. We take these luxuries for granted, but more important is the chance we have to go further in our free public schools. The opportunities provided by our state universities, such as the University of Wyoming, are within the means of a great many of our families. the University of Kentucky. American children have a better chance to make good because of their higher average education. The University of New Hampshire, the University of Florida. We are indeed fortunate to have a chance to learn and think for ourselves and not to be controlled by the state every minute of our lives. We also have private colleges like Dartmouth. The universities exist to train young people for service to their communities and country. Doctors, scientists, businessmen, teachers, and engineers. In America, we like to go to church and can go to any church we please. A historical church in Charleston, South Carolina. A Presbyterian church in Wichita, Kansas. Freedom of religion is a great privilege. St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. In an Indian village near Gallup, New Mexico, the church is the center of the life of the people, holding a dear place in their hearts. Near Gallup, there is a street fair, and on the merry-go-round is a good example of the many types of children that make America, the melting pot. Each little horse carries a precious burden. Children of many nationalities, Indians, English, Mexicans, Chinese, all fortunate children brought up in the freedom of our country. We all want to be loyal citizens, but how can we help? Watch these young people preparing for the high school commencement exercises. What can you do in your daily life to become a person good for America? Well, I believe that you are doing it now. If you were here with these high school boys, you would know how to pitch in and help. No one is telling these boys to work. They have learned that in America, it is necessary for each person to do his part and to do it cheerfully, to be sincerely interested in the people around him. They already have the cooperation and independence that we saw in the men building the house. They listen to the advice of their teacher, but each boy feels free to give his own opinion. Yes, they will tease and joke, but before the curtain rises, their work will be finished on time. Whether it's sorting papers, hauling tables into position, nailing up signs, or preparing a speech. The loudspeaker equipment must be ready for use. Rehearsal is over, and the young people hurry home to get ready for the big event tomorrow. Commencement day arrives. Notice this typically American incident. Bert's sister is graduating. His father wants information about parking the car, and Bert is sure the patrolman will help him. He always knows that he can go to the police for help. How different from the countries in which the people fear their police. People coming from these countries tell us that our greatest American privilege, the thing we can be most thankful for, is our freedom from fear. Bert's sister will have many decisions to make, but she is trained to make her own decisions the American way. They are serious as they enter the stage, realizing as never before that our way of life is being attacked and that its survival lies in their hands. They will meet each crisis of their lives with judgment and integrity, because behind each thought and decision lies their heritage and bringing up in the American way, at home, at school, at church, and in their various activities. If each one of us does his job well and thinks straight, if we all work together, it becomes a mighty force. A force like many drops of water that form in the clouds over the mountains. the cold air, these fall as snowflakes and make the beautiful snowdrifts. On warm days, the snow melts and trickles down the ravines. These small streams join until they become raging torrents, roaring down the mountainsides. Truly, the small drops of water, by uniting, have become a great force. On the west side of the divide, these rivers may flow into the Columbia River. In the same way, in the Middle West, small streams may become the Mississippi River. In the Far East, the Niagara River flows over the high cliffs to become Niagara Falls. In the same way, throughout the length and breadth of our country, each one of you doing your part at home, at school, and at play is building a force that is capable of keeping America safe. The great feeling of sympathy, understanding, and generosity toward our fellow man that is America, and the determination to work and fight for this ideal will keep America a bulwark of freedom for the peoples in all parts of the world.